Well, someone has to ask legitimate questions, and I guess what better person, right, to ask those legitimate questions than Piers Morgan? Yes, you heard me correctly, ladies and gentlemen, because Piers Morgan, as we know, always asks the right and legitimate questions. And one of those legitimate questions has to be, why is Israel allowed to refuse to admit it has a large nuclear arsenal, which it does, versus why is Iran not allowed to have a nuclear weapon? Now, both are legitimate questions, ladies and gentlemen. But if we had any level of common sense, rationale whatsoever, we would understand that Israel is a democracy and they're not going to be using their nuclear arsenal to blow up Iran or their enemies to kingdom come. Meanwhile, if you've got the Iranian regime, which has chanted death to America, death to Israel, what do you think they're going to do with a nuclear bomb? So, Piers Morgan, we're asking legitimate questions. And what other better person to bring on to answer these so-called legitimate questions that Piers Morgan has than none other than Piers Morgan's great friend, Mehdi Hasan. If you don't know who Mehdi Hasan is, he is a very prominent Muslim, I believe, over in the UK. He is very pro. I'm talking about very pro-Islam. He is seemingly one of those debaters where if you listen to the things that he says, a lot of it can be refuted, just like Dave Smith, Candace Owens, the whole lot of them, except Mehdi Hasan himself claims to be a Muslim and claims that Islam is the religion of peace and whatever else. If you've seen any of the stuff that Mehdi Hasan has done, you'll know what I'm talking about. And recently, just before this Iran 12-day war took place with Israel versus Iran and wiping out the nuclear arsenal that Iran no doubt had, which is what the intelligence is coming back as, Mehdi Hasan and Piers Morgan got together and, well, have a watch of this first clip of Mehdi Hasan, well, talking about Israel's nuclear arsenal. Here we go.
You asked me a question at the beginning. It was a great question. Put yourself in Israel's shoes. We should always have empathy for whoever it is, enemies, allies. Let me ask the question back to you. Put yourself in the shoes of an Iranian official sitting in Tehran today who looks at a map of the region and sees Israel with nukes, Russia with nukes, Pakistan with nukes, India with nukes, nuclear-armed America next door in Iraq. Wouldn't you want nuclear weapons? I'm against nukes.
Yeah, but if you're the regime, but Mehdi,
if you look at,
but Mehdi, you wouldn't dispute.
Would you not think it's rational
well,
to have nukes?
My response would be this: you wouldn't dispute that Iran's tentacles have been fueling for a long period of time Hamas, the Houthis, Hezbollah, and I presume you wouldn't also dispute that the tactical attack on Hezbollah through the pages, 3,000 of them targeted in a very precise way, that has led to Hezbollah throwing the towel in and saying we're not going to get engaged in this war with Iran, which is a very significant moment in this whole war, I would argue.
If your question is, has Israel degraded Iran's supports abroad, its proxies, 100%. But that's irrelevant to the rightness or wrongness of this. I'm asking you to put yourself in the position
but all those proxies want to kill
Iranian
Israelis,
government.
Right? So that's why I think that Israel has a right.
Well, let's not get... Well, as you've agreed, Israel's doing much of the killing right now. But let me just ask you this. Again, Ukraine gave up nukes, got invaded. Saddam Hussein gave up nukes, got invaded and executed. Gaddafi gave up chemical weapons, got invaded and killed. Again, if you're the Iranians, are you not looking at this thinking, this means we need nukes? I would rather not give them an incentive to go get nuclear weapons. I'm anti-nuclear weapons for anyone. So I don't want Iran to have nukes. But the best way for Iran not to have nukes is not to attack them. That makes countries want to have nukes more. It's just rational to go, oh, the countries who have nukes like North Korea, they don't get invaded. So why give them an incentive to get more nukes? Why not actually have a weapons of mass destruction free region? You know which country does have nukes in the Middle East? Israel, in violation of UN Security Council resolutions. You know which country doesn't allow IAEA inspectors into the country? Israel. You know which country hasn't signed the NPT, unlike Iran? Israel. We should talk about Israel's nuclear weapons, which actually incentivize others in the regions, not just Israel, Turkey, Saudi Arabia, to think about nuclear weapons of their own. I'd rather not have more nukes in the Middle East with anyone.
I can actually agree with one of the points that Mehdi Hasan is making, and that is we shouldn't have nuclear weapons. No country at all should have nuclear weapons. Nuclear power, 100%. But nuclear weapons, I do believe that we are pretty much creating a rod for our own back and causing our own destruction as a result of having these weapons of mass destruction. It's not a good thing. And when you put these weapons of mass destruction in the hands of terrorists and all their proxies as well, what do you think they're going to do with them? Now, Mehdi Hasan's argument is basically, well, Israel's got nukes, so therefore why can't Iran have nukes? And we've said many, many times over why Iran cannot have nukes. And Mehdi's going, well, Israel is causing a great deal of incentive for Iran to have nuclear weapons because, well, it seems like Iran's getting a little bit jealous of Israel having nuclear weapons. The difference is Israel is not chanting death to Iran or death to Hamas or anything like that. They're not chanting any of those things. In fact, Israel is the one country surrounded by all of these major Islamic nations. A lot of them want Israel gone, I'll have you know. So you've got David versus Goliath. And David seems to be winning at the moment, but you're seeing a lot of people run so much cover for the Islamic regimes. You're seeing so many Muslim commentators and even like just regular commentators go, well, why is it that Israel can have nuclear weapons and not declare that they've got nuclear weapons, but Iran can't have that? That doesn't seem fair. That doesn't seem right. Two are totally different, man. Honestly, if you are trying to say that it's okay for Iran that has definitely got terrorist proxies all around the place and have caused a great deal of harm in the Middle East, it hasn't been Israel. Israel is just destroying Israel's enemies at the moment, by the looks of things. And that's actually a good thing. Israel is doing the entire world a favor and getting rid of these extremist, radical Islamists that don't want anyone in the West to exist unless you're a Muslim. So I don't think Mehdi Hasan can get that through his head because obviously he's biased towards the religion that he loves so much. Now, here's another moment between Mehdi and Piers Morgan that you all need to see. Again, the whole argument of the intelligence that Tulsi Gabbard said, and he didn't actually watch the entire presentation that Tulsi Gabbard said. And, well, who are you going to believe, Trump or Tulsi Gabbard? So people were going, no, we trust Tulsi Gabbard. She said this in March. A lot of things can change very, very quickly, believe you me, from March to now. Have a watch.
They have enough highly enriched uranium to build up to 9 bombs, I believe. They have 400 kilograms of uranium.
So that is an imminent threat if it's in the wrong hands, right? We can agree on that.
No, it's not. No,
but why not?
No, because unfortunately, having a civil nuclear program is totally fine. Having enriched uranium is fine. The issue is if you weaponize it and have a weapons program. And Tulsi Gabbard, no friend of radical Islam, Donald Trump's director of national intelligence, said in March that the U.S. intelligence community's consensus view is that Iran is not building a nuclear weapon, does not have a nuclear weapon, has not authorized a nuclear weapons program. The IAEA, Piers, in that report, you must have seen the line in their summary, said there are no credible indications of an ongoing, undeclared, structured nuclear program. Even the IAEA says there's no nuclear weapons program. Their boss, the IAEA chief, Piers, said last week, you cannot attack nuclear facilities in Iran. So, no, it's not an imminent threat. And under international law, Piers, this is the key point. If a weapon is a year away, you cannot say we're under imminent threat. That does not give you a right to self-defense. Otherwise, everyone in the world would go around just bombing people. You and I oppose Russia's invasion of Ukraine. We agree on that, right? Putin claimed that Ukraine would one day attack Russia with NATO support. That's why I'm doing it. That was a bullshit argument. You and I rejected Putin's bullshit argument in Ukraine. You and I have rejected the Israeli bullshit argument now in Gaza. You don't believe what they're saying about Gaza. I don't know why you're believing them on this when you were rightly calling out the bullshit from the UK and the US in 2003 over Iraq. Saddam Hussein was not an imminent threat. And Iran was not an imminent threat, and Israel attacked them illegally last week while there were nuclear negotiations going on.
Wait a minute. Saddam Hussein is not an imminent threat. Right. So 9/11 wasn't an imminent threat, wasn't an attack at all, according to Mehdi Hasan, because Saddam Hussein wasn't an imminent threat. He did plan 9/11. Of course, he was hidden by Pakistan as well. Definitely not an imminent threat. So he wasn't planning anything more nefarious or sinister. And, well, he shouldn't pay for his crime of planning 9/11 at all. So according to Mehdi Hasan, and I think a lot of people missed that, including Piers Morgan, what he just said, honestly, Mehdi Hasan's logic it's completely and utterly flawed. Just because, right, Saddam Hussein, you didn't think that he was an imminent threat, doesn't mean that he wasn't causing trouble. And so he shouldn't pay for what he did. Iran has been causing a great deal of trouble, and they have been developing a nuclear weapon. We have that intelligence. But Mehdi Hasan's going, oh, if they're a year off, they're definitely not an imminent threat. So that's all right. We can wait a year. And then in a year, if we think that it's an imminent threat, then we'll go after them then. And, well, Mehdi is going, they attacked them illegally. Okay, what are you going to do about it? Iran had a nuclear weapon. So you want Iran to have a nuclear weapon and use it? I think if they were to use the nuclear weapon, that they were no doubt building, which is the now intelligence that we've got. And by the way, they had state funerals recently for the nuclear scientists and the commanders that were working on the projects. So again, if they weren't developing a nuclear bomb, why put everything so far underground that you need a American-sized buster bomb, whatever it's called, to get to it and destroy it? That's interesting. Oh, we're developing 60% enriched uranium. Right. So Mehdi Hasan, ladies and gentlemen, is right about everything. His logic is not flawed at all, because apparently Israel is the blame. Israel is the one that attacked Iran illegally, because according to Mehdi Hasan, Iran is not an imminent threat. But they've been creating lots of imminent threats around Israel, and Israel's meant to do nothing and wait until they get attacked. We're meant to wait until Iran actually bombs Israel to kingdom come. That's his kind of logic that he's saying. So what do? And Piers Morgan doesn't even push back on it. It's just, low-level logic going up against someone who thinks that he's high-level logic. And it's just, you're both dumb. Anyway, that's enough from me. You guys take care. Be blessed. And I'll see you all in the next video.